Like if I did something wrong, she would go, "Why did you do that? Why did you do that?" And I'd look down, I'm like, "I don't know." And she'd keep doing it. And then I would finally say, "Because I'm bad." So I felt like I was a bad person all the time. My first memory wasn't at that foster home. It was pretty traumatic, actually, and I won't go into details. But again, that seemed like a story of somebody else's story. They told me that when we had chicken, I was eating the bones. That's how hungry I was. I had been starved. And so they were, trying to teach me that there's a different way. And I know growing up, they didn't really understand what I went through. And I was told that when my dad said, when he came up to me to hug me, he said that I would run away. And so they just didn't bother doing it again. And so growing up, I never had the affection, physical affection, or was told that I was loved. As I got older, I just had these feelings of like, why is it that everybody else has people that really love them? And I tried not to be envious, but it was hard not to. I remember in high school, that's when it really came out. And I actually tried to commit suicide. From that, a friend who was very wise at that point in our life asked me why I did it. And all I could say was, "It's because I don't want to be here." And so then she said, "Don't you know we love you? And most of all, don't you know that Jesus loves you?" I couldn't handle the guilt and the shame of being a bad person, even though I wanted to have a relationship with God. So in that, from the time of, starting to discover more about Jesus and the love that he had for me, then I was able to kind of move forward in a different direction. But I still had those wounds that hadn't been healed yet. I was caring for my parents, my foster parents, until they passed. It was very overwhelming. I had my own personal things that I was trying to deal with at the same time. I would cry out to God, "I don't know what I'm doing." And my mom had Alzheimer's. It was very stressful. There was really no downtime. And what ended up happening was I went to a local pizza parlor just to get away, and then discovered there were gambling machines in there. And I'd been so depressed and flat that when I went in there and started playing, it just immediately lifted my mood. Of course, I won. And then it was more of a fun thing, but eventually it became something that I had to do. My mom passed away, and then my dad passed away, and eventually my brother passed away. And in the meantime, my biological father came back into the picture, and he was expecting me to take care of him. I started feeling a lot of anger, because it's like, who are you to tell me to take care of you when you didn't bother to do that for me? And so it was constantly like that. And what I ended up doing was he was having me write his checks out. And I'm like, "Dad, I don't want anything to do with that." But he'd get mad, and then I'm like, "Fine, just get it over with." And so I knew where his checks were. And because everything had just gotten so up here that I wasn't coping at all with anything. And I ended up going and writing a check out to myself, signed his name, and I did it a number of times. And so I knew that I had to get help. And so I came to Salem for treatment. And the treatment that I had was not faith-based. I mean, I did better, but eventually I relapsed again. And so I reached out to T. Pessel, who is my mentor now. And she kept saying, "You need to go to Simonka Place." And then the commitment time, I was just like, I ain't got time for that. Eventually, I finally decided, okay, I'll go for a tour. Oh my gosh. Simonka Place helped undo so much shame. Simonka Place gave me a place to take a time out from life. To be able to look at my past. And I'm not talking about the addiction. That was in of itself was definitely had to be looked at. But really, unknowingly, I was there to heal. I was there to go, I did this, and say I'm bad, but then have it come back to me. No, you're not bad. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're admitting to what the things that you did were wrong. But more importantly, it undid the shame of having those days of a baby, not being bonded with someone to say, I'm going to be here for you. And to undo that fear. I mean, I know that was developed in those years. Not, crying out loud and not being heard, and not having my basic needs met. My basic needs were met at Simonka. We had food, we had a bed, we had a roof over our head, but most importantly, there was love.